fan base, and due to that, keen to continue Goku's journey to becoming the strongest fighter alive. Super has recently concluded with the epic and long drawn-out Tournament of Power arc, which there will be a new film continuing the franchise during this holiday season, where Goku will be facing what seems to be an ancient Saiyan warrior. Regardless, this is one of the easiest and most simplistic anime series to get into, and the fighting sequences are quite entertaining. One Punch Man. Although the original Dragon Ball series was quite comedic, it primarily shifted its focus to serious and intense fights, with the later series putting the humorous elements underneath. However, One Punch Man is a unique twist within the fighting/superhero genre, since the protagonist, Saitama, decided to trade his hair for immense power. One would think Saitama would have had to do some ridiculous and vastly strenuous training to become strong, but no. All he did was 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and run 10 kilometers every single day. Unfortunately, although Saitama obtained what he wanted, he was unable to enjoy it due to the lack of the thrill, as seemingly every opponent he faced was easily dismantled with casual punches. Throughout his journey to become the strongest hero, he eventually meets his student, the cyborg general, and innocent-looking but crazy powerful Tatsumaki, the tornado of terror. The fight scenes are quite refreshing to see, but the comedy is out of. For instance, Saitama would be more concerned with making it to the local grocery store for the bargain sales than to do actual superhero work. If you want to see a guy literally one-shot giant crabs, mole people, or space emperors, then this series is worth a watch. Halo Legends. One probably wouldn't expect a video game to actually go through the complexity that is Japanese-style animation, but during 2010, the addicting and widely popular Halo series decided to tell stories outside of Master Chief's battles against the Covenant in style. Several big-name studios worked alongside Bungie to bring in 7 tales with different perspectives. One could argue that this isn't really an anime, but the animation, art style, and moments within the episode are quite reminiscent of other anime series. For instance, Prototype tells us of a UNSC soldier who struggles to come to terms with his own humanity, which led him to enter a super mech prototype in attempts to save his squad. For those that have watched the Gundam series, which popularized the concept of obvious reference in the prototype, the backstories of the Spartan 2s, their rivalry with the ODSTs, and even the origins of the Flood Parasite and the mysterious Forerunners are explored within Halo Legends. A sci-fi video game anime hybrid is not a common sight, but come on, anime and Halo? You can't go wrong with that sweet combo. If you're a fan of Halo or space shooter games in general, this might be a good place to start. Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash. Ever wake up and feel like you've experienced something again that you didn't know or made up all memories of? Well, Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash explores a world where the users don't realize that they're in a video game, but even so, the concepts of life and death are very real. For those that have played the immersive and widely popular World of Warcraft MMO, or similar games with the ability to choose a class, that's just one of the video game elements within this anime. The story follows a group of teens who, for better or for worse, have to learn to coexist, improve upon their combat abilities and skills, and survive or perish. Within this world, there are no respawns, and life is as precious as it is to take it from enemies within the game's world, which help the heroes become strong enough to move on to higher places. Although other anime series on this list encompass dozens to hundreds of episodes, Grimgar has a short first season with about 13 episodes. It does take a few episodes for the story to really pick up on what really makes it a cool watch, but the cooperation between contrasting characters and World of Warcraft vibes make this a unique entry on this list. Terror in Residence. Terrorist attacks are no laughing matter, but neither is the government hiding plans upon the human race and the general public. The series starts off with seemingly normal teenage boys who have an agenda on their hands to uncover the truth about who they are and where they came from. But to do so, they're forced to take drastic measures which get world governments, the FBI, and the like to work together. They do eventually come out of their shell and put their trust in outsiders, which heavily impacts the story and plot. Now, we don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that the series, albeit short, is very emotional, with an intense soundtrack and superb voice acting. While the other anime shows on this list that deal with giant mechs, armies, super violence, beating the crap out of each other, or killing trolls to learn mystical skills, this series is very realistic in comparison. Be sure to have some tissues for it, as this isn't a series you'll be able to watch without shedding a tear. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Before you start typing away, yes, Avatar is not really an anime series due to it being produced in the United States, but one cannot deny that its artwork, storytelling, and fighting sequences are very anime-esque. This series ran during 2005 to 2008 on Nickelodeon and developed a large fan base and even a live-action movie, which is very lackluster. Shouldn't be compared with the original series. Seriously, please, just imagine. The plot deals with Aang, an airbender who'd been given the task to bring balance to the world and to purge the evil intentions of the Fire Nation to extinguish the Earth and Water tribes alike. Across his journey to realize his potential as the Avatar, he's joined by Katara and Sokka, two members of the Water tribe, and even Toph, a blind girl who looks harmless but is quite tough. Within the 3 seasons, the series is full of amazing characters, romance, adrenaline-pumping fight sequences, and a beautiful soundtrack to top it all off. The reason this series is on this list is not because of its anime tropes, but mostly because it's a hybrid that combines an American cartoon with the strong influence of Japanese-style art. So, if you're quite acquainted with American cartoons but aren't familiar with anime,
Took my final kill.
This might be a good way to dive into the anime world. Samurai Champloo.
Try it. There's
By
no
far,
way you'll
one of the
win.
most unique anime series on this list comes in the sweet combination of hip-hop and samurai slicing up their foes. What's not to like? The series begins with 2 outcasts who are both trained in the art of dueling with katanas, albeit in heavily contrasting ways. Their differences and rivalry gets them into the same frying pan, which forces them to work together and eventually meet with a teenage girl who's in search of a particular samurai who possesses sunflowers. Mugen and Jin, the 2 aforementioned samurai, develop a friendship alongside Fu to travel across Japan to seek their meaning within life. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, since they were met with assassins, mercenaries, police, and even legendary swordsmen in hopes of acquiring a bounty from wiping them out. Regardless, this series has a wide array of comedic circumstances, some history lessons about feudal Japan, and its English dub is arguably superior to the original. The soundtrack is compiled from the work of Nujabes, Fat John, Force of Nature, and much more. If you're into chill storytelling with hip-hop elements, then be sure to give this a watch. Food Wars. Contrasting ways. Their differences and rivalry gets them in influence of Japanese-style artwork. So, if you're quite acquainted with American cartoons but aren't familiar with anime as a whole, this might be a good way to dive into the anime world. Samurai Champloo. By far, one of the most unique anime series on this list comes in the sweet combination of hip-hop and samurai slice. With the strong influence of Japanese-style artwork. So, if you're quite acquainted with American cartoons but aren't familiar with anime,
Samurai Champloo.
Season of it being way too goddamn hot for me to come up with another clever introduction for this video. But you guys know the drill by now. It's been 3 months, and that means there's a buttload of new anime coming out. Some of it's really good, some of it's really not, but it can be hard to tell the difference at first glance. Luckily, you've got me, your steward and guide, the anime pope, to sit down, watch everything, and tell you which 10 anime from summer 2018 I think are the most worth your time. Because while summer gives a lot of us a bit of extra freedom, you could spend that free time playing games or catching up on old shows or even learning new skills, and the last thing you want to do is end up wasting it on mediocre anime. Or accidentally on an island and wasting the next decade of your life in jail.
Just tell me when they're
Maximizing time spent watching good anime, let's dive right into the ones to watch for summer. Let's dive right in.
Waste.
Let's dive. Come on, dude, set you up. Grand Blue Dreaming. One episode in, Grand Blue Dreaming, not to be confused with Grand Blue Fantasy, is already easily in my top 2 scuba diving anime of all time. Although I'll have to wait to the end of the season to see whether it or Amanchu ultimately falls to the top. Okay, jokes aside, Amanchu and Grand Blue Dreaming really couldn't be more different. Where the one other diving anime is a sweet, laid-back, relaxing series with fury undertones, Grand Blue Dreaming is a raucous, rowdy comedy with lots of... Yeah, that. Don't get me wrong, this show has its fair share of cute girls in skimpy outfits, but it's got more than its share of cute dudes in skimpier ones, or no outfits a lot of the time. Grand Blue tells the story of Kizahara Iori, a college boy who dreams of making friends and getting laid, but ends up getting roped in by the idiots who hang out in his uncle's diving shop and condemned to a school life of drunken antics with their diving club. This is a tale of idiots daring to be idiots, which is exactly the kind of story that top-edge and test author Kenji Inoue excels at telling, as does Gintama and School Rumble director Shinji Takamatsu. This anime production is kind of a match made in heaven, so from the get-go I have high expectations, and I'm pleased to say that Grand Blue blew even those out of the water. It's kind of rare to see an anime tackle the mostly American domain of stupid booze-fueled college comedies, but Grand Blue is tackling it with gusto, and I can't wait for the next hilarious episode to hit Amazon Prime. Speaking of hilarity, this season is ripe with strong comedies, but I think the strongest and the one most likely to steal Hinamatsuri's Best Comedy of the Year crown is Asobi Asobase. From a cursory glance at the watercolor art style and comparison to sugary swoop tea, you might expect this anime to be yet another lighthearted moe show without much bite or substance to it. And you'd be dead wrong. Asobi Asobase is an off-the-wall comedy of the highest order, with a first episode that very distinctly reminded me of some of the best stuff in Nichijou. As Asobi Asobase focuses on a group of three schoolgirls with distinct personalities. There's Kasumi, a straight-laced, serious nerd who struggles with English and can get really scary when she's got her mind set on something. Hinako, a goofy weirdo with a few screws loose who learns to be a normal and poppin' schoolgirl. And Olivia, a white girl who grew in Japan and can't speak a word of English, yet pretends to be an illiterate exchange student to fuck with the other two. There's not a lot that I can say about this show at this stage, except that despite appearances, it is bust a gut fun. Its cutesy art style gets twisted into reaction figures that can easily match the best Grand Blue dreaming and Hinamatsuri has to offer, which is saying a lot, and the gags often go to absurd, kind of disturbing places. The last joke of the first episode in particular had me floored. Of course, the real measure of a comic's strength is how the jokes and characters hold up over time. Plenty of shows get repetitive as they drag on, but this is one of the strongest first episodes I've seen in comedy, and I've got high hopes for it forward. If you're looking for a good laugh, you can watch Asobi Asobase on Crunchyroll. Banana Fish is an adaptation of an all-time classic hard-boiled gangster manga from the 1980s, one that just happens to be a shoujo title, which is the last place that you'd expect to see this kind of story nowadays, but the 80s were a different time. This is also one of the progenitors of the shonen ai, or boys' love subgenre, though it focuses more on mostly platonic love between men than on women and fan service. It's definitely more Yuri on Ice than JoJo Romantica. The show's plot focuses on a young New York gangster named Ashwins and a Japanese reporter named Eiji who form a bond with each other amid the mounting chaos tensions between the cities and it's a complicated, mature story that, like the best gangster films, defies simple summaries, buoyed by a large cast of characters and a solid blend of mystery, tension, and action. Those action scenes are pretty killer, and this anime adaptation kicks them up past 11 to, like, 15. The original manga's art was a little on the stiff side, but director Hiroko Utsumi knows how to make dudes swimming in a straight line feel like it's the most exciting thing in the world, so needless to say, she gets good mileage from her stunt fights. Working with Studio Mappa doesn't hurt either, and the show's production values are sky high. Based on what I've seen so far, I think this is going to end up being one of the most exciting shows of the season. It hits a setting and subject matter that we rarely see in anime, and very few of those titles are often influenced by the original Banana Fish manga, yet this adaptation manages to knock it out of the park on basically every level. If you enjoy crime dramas, action anime, a bit of good old-fashioned homoeroticism, or any combination thereof, Banana Fish is likely to be one of your favorites this season. The original manga is hailed as a classic for a reason, enjoyed by boys and girls of all ages in Japan, and this adaptation looks like it will more than do it justice. If you're interested, Banana Fish is streaming on Amazon. We're already through 3 items into this list, and I haven't seen any choice bikini shots yet. What kind of summer season is this? Fortunately, while most of the ecchi shows this season are kind of lacking in one department or another, or in Ragnarok, Harukana Receive is here to pick up the slack. In my pants, that is. Alright, so here's the thing about Harukana Receive. I literally only started watching it because what we love. But I was surprised to find that there's a lot more there, and I'm not talking about the T in the TNA equation. Yes, this is a very well-produced, nicely animated cavalcade of jiggly fan service, but it's also a surprisingly strong red-blooded competitive sports anime. And love story? Yeah, actually, the show uses the beach volleyball partnership as a kind of on-the-nose metaphor for romantic relationships, and beyond the obvious Yuri bait, it seems to have something genuinely thoughtful to say about what it means to support and rely on a romantic partner. This show has got a lot of heart, which was just about the last thing I expected to see in an anime that looks like this. Although, speaking of how it looks, if you can look past the titties, Harukana Receive is pretty dang gorgeous all around. Its CG water and sand particle effects are really good and breathe refreshing, summery life into the already solid character animation. And director Toshiyuki Kubooka, fresh off the Berserk movies, has a great eye for shot composition and visual storytelling. Mix in a fantastic OST courtesy of Rasmus Faber, and you've got an anime that's a treat for all the senses, not just the one that you'd expect. Speaking of surprises, Anglemois, Record of Mongol Invasion, has turned out to be a very pleasant one. It's a historical drama set during the first Mongol invasion of Japan back in 1274. A fascinating and bloody turning point in Japanese history that mostly gets passed over in fiction for the more romanticized Sengoku period. Specifically, the series tells the story of a group of exiled Japanese prisoners who are conscripted by the rulers of Tsushima Island, the front line of the invasion, to fight off the Mongol hordes. Our hero is Kuuchi Jinzaburo, a disgraced samurai who takes up arms alongside pirates, thieves, and other malcontents, in part to defend his homeland and in part to satisfy his apparent thirst for violence. Violence is definitely the main draw of this show, and it's really well executed. While it's a bit overdone with the obnoxious paper filter over everything, the rough, sketchy look of the show is well matched to the raw, visceral feel of the action, and the swordplay on display here is well choreographed and shot. This feels like a proper Chandara samurai flick with only a tiny amount of anime bullshit mixed in. Anglemois probably isn't going to be for everyone, but if you like historical fiction with golden kamui that pays a lot of attention to small details and addresses parts of history that haven't been overplayed, or you're just looking to see something new in an action anime, I highly recommend checking it out. So far, I am hooked. And on top of that, I'm learning things.
Fuck. The noodles.
On that note, Cells at Work, as the name aptly suggests, is a comedy about cells working in a city that represents the human body.
Alright, I'll see what it is.
The series stars best girl Red Blood Cell, a particularly ditzy example of many such cells who work as oxygen delivery ladies with the body. As the series goes on, she develops a friendship with a kindly but soft-spoken white blood cell, and we get to learn all about the body as it undergoes all sorts of trauma like wounds and infections. Basically, this is a monster of the week anime, with the monsters being replaced with bacteria and viruses. And monsters are generally dealt with by having an army of white blood cells violently stab them to death with hunting knives. And then they squirt blood on the blood. For some reason, just don't think about it. Okay, Cells at Work isn't necessarily the most accurate biology lesson, but in all other respects, this anime is a really fun time. The comedic aspects are really heartwarming, and the action, when it comes up, is entertaining and simple. The real draw of the series is the clever...
I'm getting my life fucked around.
Functions like the adorable kindergarten platelet, clumsily repairing the body and shooting our main goes on. Or the very uncomfortable mound of cells that forms a blood clot after a scrape in episode 2. It's nowhere near 100% based in science, but it's definitely charming, funny, and memorable enough that viewers should retain the facts that it does present to them. It's rare for edutainment to get the entertainment part of the equation down this well, and it is an absolute pleasure their workplace comedies a little more down to earth, Konagawa's Middle Management Blues has you covered. The show follows a city manager in a debt collection agency as he desperately tries to stay sane and find a bit of downtime in between the usual jobs. Busy work of organizing a death game to keep his psychotic boss from and if that doesn't finish,
God damn. Hold on, man. Let me slow down.
Konagawa is a comedic prequel of sorts, starring one of the villains from the greatest gambling thriller anime of all time, Kaiju, which means that someone out there made an entire show just for me and Super Eye Patch Wolf, and I think that's pretty nifty. One of the key features that makes gambling so nerve-wracking is the show's narrator, who describes the inner thoughts of the hero and sometimes villains and the detail of his predicaments with poetic language and dramatic aplomb. In addition to the art style and sound effects that characterize Kaiji, Konagawa takes that same narrator and has him talk about awkward office interactions like trying to memorize your subordinates' names with the exact same level of enthusiasm, treating those moments the same way that he treats a turn in Mahjong, that is to say, like it's the end of the goddamn world. If you haven't watched Kaiji yet, you can still enjoy Konagawa, but it's definitely intended for fans of the show, and it will spoil big chunks of the original series right off the bat. So, if it's already on your to-watch list, maybe hold off a bit on this, or at least skip the intro of each episode to avoid spoilers. But also, please, just watch Kaiji. Please, it's the best. You can find both series on Crunchyroll. In all my years watching anime, I've found that sports anime are often among the best and least appreciated shows out there. The genre contains plenty of examples of exciting underdog stories rife with great character drama that can easily compete with the best shonen battle series, but general lack of weeb interest in sports means that only rare exceptions like Megalobox often are recognized for how tight they can really be. Hanebado, a show about girls playing badminton, is already shaping up to be one hell of a great sports anime, and it deserves to be watched by, well, just about everyone with even a passing interest in anime. It's got a great and memorable cast of very cute girls, after getting strong BBK euphonium vibes from this one, and explores a strong underlying theme of talent versus skill and the frustration of trying your hardest at something you love, only to still come short. The show also does a great job of exploring both the psychology and tactics of badminton, which is a must for any sports-based anime looking to head with the ultimate race. Yes, the character drama is what gives the show's legs and makes them interesting, but making the sport at the center of it all feel exciting and true to life is really important too. Hanebado's dedication to getting that right is not just in its writing, but also its animation, which is stunning. Matches use lots of fast, exciting camera moves as well as
is a dude on his stomach.
Augmented with a lot of anime flair that makes the characters practically leap out of the screen. I don't need Sakuga to enjoy this kind of show. The Baby Steps is still my favorite sports series of all time, but damn, it definitely helps. Hanebado might well be the most gorgeous anime this season, although my next recommendation definitely gives it a review. Starlight, the sole high dive show I'm highlighting on this season's list, is pretty dang weird. Like, I've watched the first episode twice now, and I'm still not 100% sure what it's all about, but I am 100% sure that I love it. The series focuses on a group of girls in an acting class at Seisho Music Academy, a prestigious all-girls art school, as they compete for starring roles in the school's third-year production of a show called Starlight. As an ex-high school theater geek, this show's themes immediately grabbed me. I'd be totally on board for a moe show about young actors studying ballet, stage fighting, and other crafts as they come into their own as performers. But early on, the protagonist, Karen, has strange prosthetic dreams of Tokyo Tower, hinting that perhaps there's something more going on here. And in the first episode's totally bonkers third act, we see exactly this, although I still have no idea what it is.
Damn, we got destroyed.
Suggest fallback and regroup.
Must engage in theatrical singing and dancing audition duels called reviews on a massive underground stage under the watchful eye of a talking giraffe, all to determine who gets to wear the heavenly tiara of the top nuts. And as you can probably tell from what's on screen, thanks to the backing of Bushiroad, it is fully committed to making that over-the-top insanity as gorgeous and exciting as humanly possible. There are other great action series this season, but this one has immediately cemented itself at the top of the pile. Calling Review Starlight ambitious would be a massive understatement. Will the story be any good? I hope so. I'm getting flashes of Utena and Star Driver here, which is a pretty good sign. But even if I come away just as baffled at the end of this show as I am at the beginning, I feel like the sheer spectacle of these musical fights is going to make it worth the watch. I'm tempted to say that this is going to be my favorite show of the season, but there's one more quirky original anime this summer that's got my hopes higher. I have a lot of questions about Planet With. First and foremost, with what? You can't just end your title in a preposition like that. You're killing me. Putting grammar aside, though, I'm still very confused by the first episode of this series. This anime intentionally leans as hard as it can into the realm of the surreal, kicking things off by introducing us to an amnesiac kid living with a cosplaying maid and a humanoid cat who enjoys looking at the skirts of figurines and only getting stranger from there. And with anime monsters whose primary attack seems to be helping their enemies with their deepest wishes and regrets, and who are motivated by an interesting twist on a philosophy taken straight from toxic sci-fi, I've got a feeling that we're in for a wild, unpredictable ride.
Yo.
By the end of episode 2, we've already gone pretty off the rails. Admittedly, the first episode is more than a little confusing, and I can understand people being a bit put off by its samey tone and seemingly nonsensical plot. Though I think the second episode does a good job of clarifying some things, but beyond that, I've got one very good reason to suspect that this show will turn out to be amazing. Maybe even a masterpiece. And his name is Satoshi Mizukani. Mizukani is the mangaka behind Spirit Circle, Lucifer and Biscuit Hammer, and Sengoku Yoko, and you're already getting excited if you know what those are, but if you don't, they're 3 of the best manga ever written. His stories are defined by their powerful emotional weight, their tight, clever writing that defies cliché at every turn, and their batshit crazy premises. Obviously, Planet With has already ticked off that last box with a first episode that manages to out-ridiculous the new Fooly Cooly. It is goddamn criminal that Mizukani's work hasn't yet been adapted to anime. I made a video ranting about this 2 years ago to give you some idea of how much I stand behind that statement. But the apparent trade-off for that long injustice is that he now gets to write and design his own original anime production backed by a staff of industry veterans, including the sound designer for JoJo, and the director of UQ Holder, Danmachi Sword Oratoria, and friggin' Shimonetta, which is pretty much a match in heaven. If you haven't yet read Spirit Circle or Lucifer and Biscuit Hammer, you should go do that at your earliest convenience, but if you do, you're gonna have to trust me on this. Mizukani is a genius, and if Planet With doesn't turn out to be a guys and Yazzie pick out a Vlogbrothers style punishment for me to do on camera. Seriously, if you watch only one anime this summer, make it Planet With. But all 10 of the anime I just mentioned are also well worth your time, and there are a few other shows to note that didn't quite make the list for one reason or another, bearing in mind that I'm not including continuing anime because obviously the people watching those are going to keep watching them. Yuna's Haunted Hot Springs seems like a fun shonen ecchi show, but the fan service is kind of muted, especially for Blu-ray release, and so far it feels pretty predictable plot-wise. Speaking of ecchi, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord has it in spades and very high quality, and it hits a lot of my fetishes, but it's kind of hard to recommend on a story or character level because it is so dumb. I like the concept, acting, and writing of Happy Sugar Life, which is, despite appearances, a horror anime, but the low-quality visuals and cheap animation took away a lot of my potential enjoyment. And I'm enjoying Seven Senses of the Reunion, a bargain bin asylum knockoff of Anohana and SAO, more than I thought I would, though my interest in it is at least half morbid curiosity to see how they're going to screw this up. And I need to give a special shout out to Angels of Death, which just barely missed making the cut for this list. It's a really fun piece of slasher film schlock, and everyone involved, especially the animators and actors, seems to be having as much fun making it as I am watching it. There are also 2 Netflix anime that I'm looking forward to enjoying whenever Netflix decides to actually bring them stateside, The Gamer and Score Girl. All of those are potentially worth watching depending on your taste and patience. But as I mentioned at the start of this video, anime isn't the only thing you can spend your free time on this summer. And one of the most productive things you can do with all of that time is learn.
How about science overhurting?
Okay, yeah, I know this sounds kind of lame, but I'm not talking about revising your high school curriculum here. I'm talking about this sponsor, Skillshare, an online self-directed learning platform that makes it easy and fun to pick up skills and knowledge from a community of experts in just about any field that you might be interested in. On Skillshare, you can find comprehensive, interactive lessons on everything from Photoshop to essential life skills, but they're all taught by pros who know what they're doing and can actively answer any questions you might have. Right now, I'm using Skillshare to bone up on my Japanese, which is useful for any anime fan, especially in this age of Netflix delays, and to get better at using After Effects. And the best thing about it all is that it's cheap. Skillshare's premium membership costs just $10 a month and grants you unlimited access to every last one of the high-quality lessons on the platform. And if that price isn't enough to entice you, the first 500 people who sign up with SKL.sh/basement will get to try the service free for 2 months. Yeah, that's right. You'll get a whole summer of learning entirely free. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Skillshare and get learning today. But before you go, I've got 2 quick questions for you to answer in the comments. Firstly, which shows this season are you the most hyped about? And secondly, plan it with what? Plan it with what? I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement. There are some anime that immediately grab you with their unique premises. Overlord is not one of those. By the time it came out in summer of 2015, isekai anime and trapped in an MMO shows in particular were already well past the point of saturation, and many of them were fairly criticized for their overpowered heroes who rendered every conflict a foregone conclusion. Overlord's elevator pitch is basically more of that, but the protagonist the Demon King this time. Itself a pretty overplayed concept in fantasy anime. And following Spring's wildly popular Danmachi while competing against the more unique, at least on paper, fantasy shows, games, and Yusha, it seems like it does its making. At least that's what I assumed at the start of that season. But you know what they say about subjects. 3 years later, Overlord is the only one of those shows to have received a proper sequel, though Danmachi does have a spin-off out and a proper follow-up in the works. Despite being split from the course for a longer runtime, Gate fizzled out fast, and I am willing to bet that you only just remember that Yusha exists. On that note, looking at that summer's chart just reminded me that Charlotte's a thing, and damn, that is a series that really deserves a full video teardown, but not today. Despite an underwhelming premise and somewhat lackluster visual presentation, Overlord proved to be an overwhelmingly good time. And even though this new split season is entering into an even more oversaturated isekai market than what it faced 3 years ago, I'm still having more fun with it than just about anything that's currently airing, although part of that is my very strong bias toward fantasy shows. So what is it that's given this anime its defining stain? And what makes it stand out from the endless sea of other isekai and MMO anime? It's time to find out what's so great about Overlord. If you ask me to name one thing about Overlord that I love the most, my answer would come easily. The characters. Between villagers, adventurers, criminals, politicians, noblemen, and all of the bosses and monsters in Nazarick, this show has an absolutely massive cast of main and supporting characters. And while I can't name all of them off the top of my head, there are dozens that I can recognize at a glance because they stand out as interesting individuals, especially the many faces that populate the Greater Tomb of Nazarick. In lore, each Guardian of Nazarick's personality and design was lovingly crafted by one of the members of Ainsworth Gone, reflecting to some extent those players' unique tastes and personalities, and you really feel that from how they act and express themselves in the anime. The writers really got into the head of the characters who wrote these characters. They're basically a pack of top-tier Power Rangers villains, each with their own funny quirks and distinctive personality traits that set them apart from the rest, all jockeying to curry favor with the Supreme Overlord, who is also a fantastic character in his own right. Unlike almost every other isekai anime protagonist, Suzuki Satoru through, the sad Japanese salaryman behind the manga, aka Heinz Gon, comes off as genuinely socially awkward, the kind of guy you believe has no friends in real life and spends all his free time in an MMO. And he'd honestly make for kind of a crappy wet blanket protagonist if it weren't for what I think is Overlord's most ingenious plot conceit. Because of his situation, Momonga is forced to roleplay, which is weirdly uncommon in this subgenre that's supposedly focused on role-playing games, whereas, say, Kirito is presented to the audience as a genuine badass, both in-game and IRL, Overlord repeatedly reminds us that Momonga is just some loser pretending to be a badass, only slightly aided in that effort by his suppressed emotions, which makes the OP bullshit that he regularly pulls off feel more endearing and fun than the eye-rolling, unironic wish fulfillment of similar shows. It's genuinely interesting and often funny to see a low-level salaryman take on the role of a high-level evil overlord, pretending to be what he imagines a confident, capable, and charismatic leader would be like, going along with the perceptions and whims of his more capable henchmen like Albedo and Demiurge without having any real idea of what he's doing. I mean, it takes him to the start of the show's third core to realize that he's been accidentally taking over the world. But he has to keep it up, because if he lets slip to all of these overpowered monsters who think he's a literal god, that he's just a guy, who knows what could happen. And the fact that they undeservedly hold him in such high regard is a source of some pretty stellar comedy, like how Demiurge is constantly coy about his plans when Momonga asks him, because he knows his mighty, brilliant Overlord is already 12 steps ahead of him, when in reality the Overlord is only vaguely aware that there's a plan at all. The series clearly recognizes how fun this dynamic is, because in the second arc it has him start role-playing as a second character, the stoic adventurer Momo. He's a weak, regular human pretending to be a spooky, scary skeleton, pretending to be a strong, heroic human. Fellow adventurers look to him as a hero among heroes, a man of unparalleled strength and courage, a over-leveled mage with 0 sword skills tossing around his blades like blunt objects. And also, Jeff is a villain who puts all other evils in the world to shame, but that's developing slowly. This dynamic proves to be very entertaining, especially when the Overlord gets confused about his roles, and Momon intentionally handicapping himself as well as his sidekick Nabe allows the show to create some slightly less one-sided fights without having to pull a foe as strong as a Nazarick floor boss out of its butt, something that's only happened once so far when Shaltir was brainwashed. But it's the large supporting cast that really pulls the brunt of the weight in keeping Overlord's action fun. From important recurring heroes and antagonists to one-off bit characters, the massive side cast of this show is distinctive and well-defined enough to serve as the main casts of like 4 other anime. Just between the Blue Roses, the Eight Fingers, and the Knights of the Riestes Kingdom, you've got the foundation of a pretty solid full-length fantasy anime, or role-playing campaign for that matter, yet Sebas clears out all of the potential bosses in a couple minutes on his day off. That approach to storytelling really helps to sell how insanely powerful the denizens of Nazarick are compared to the rest of the world. This is a fantasy land full of capable, driven heroes and villains, yet all of their incredible abilities and unique backstories are mainly used to job for Nazarick. And while having main characters that insanely overpowered can easily remove the stakes from a story, and does here to a certain extent because there is rarely any doubt as to who will win a fight, Overlord's action is still fun to watch because all of the people they're killing are, for the most part, very hateable, which changes the attitudes that we have towards these fights from, oh, Sebas is gonna one-punch some more dudes, or, boy, I wonder if this Clementine chick will go down in 1 sword swipe or 2, into, oh, you don't know who you just messed with, and facing off against the main cast who min-max their murdering stats while putting 0 points into empathy, they generally get fucked up pretty hard. On the flip side, we often see the Guardians or Momonga come up against good people who we want to root for, in which case we get to root for an underdog and feel the tension of hoping they'll find some way to survive and fight another day, because we know there's pretty much no way they'll come out with a win. Hell, the entire first arc of the second season pulls the rug out from under us by using our protagonist and his henchman Cutus as mostly unseen villains, while we follow the struggle of a noble lizard-man hero to unite the feuding tribes of his swampland home and fend off an encroaching evil. We get to know the main cast of lizard warriors and a surprisingly horrible lizard waifu pretty darn intimately before it even becomes clear that it's Nazarick who they're fighting. It's honestly a pretty clever trick of the story structure. First, we start out rooting for the lizards to win against the undead army, or maybe for Momon to show up and save them, and then, who they're facing, we shift, hoping that Nazarick will recognize their skill and spirit and either spare or recruit them. In the second arc, the Blue Roses center stage, with Sevis taking on the combat role of a badass mentor who can step in when things get hairy, and the Overlord, again, mostly unseen until the end of the story. Between Climb and Rain, we get plenty of opportunities to see genuine underdog characters overcome difficult odds in some solid, creative fight scenes, while Sevis gets to carry them as an unbeaten badass. And while up to this point he's been a mostly unknown background character, Sevis sees a lot of growth during this story as well, and ends up being the heart of the story. He stumbles into new, emotionally challenging territory when he catches feelings for a human girl, which means that he has to perform a balancing act of keeping her safe, while maintaining the trust of his human-hating allies. Overlord is constantly coming up with new and interesting scenarios in which to use its characters, and new and interesting characters to use in its scenarios. According to his short bio on MAL, the series author, Kagane Noriyama, is a Dungeons & Dragons devotee who started writing mainly because all of his friends were too busy to play with him, and that makes a lot of sense. He's clearly got an intense passion for creating lore, designing challenges, and getting ahead of his characters, things that you pick up by sitting on both sides of the screen. He's also got a remarkable knack for descriptive narration that puts you right in his world, an essential skill for any good DM. That skill is mostly lost in the anime adaptation, but definitely comes through clearly in the light novels, which you can read on Bookwalker, but we're not quite there yet. The entire character concept from the manga echoes that experience. He takes on the role of both Overlord, or DM, and player at various points throughout the story, and he's got a strong devotion to preserving the concepts and ideas that he and his friends created for Nazarick, which is essentially a big role-playing campaign that they made within the world of the game they were playing, seeing it as a way to keep their spirit alive. It makes you wonder about the incredibly detailed lore and character that Overlord are recycled from past campaigns that Noriyama played with his friends. Either way, despite focusing on a large, rotating cast of characters instead of a single party, Overlord definitely gives off the personal, handcrafted feel of a really good tabletop campaign. Every story arc feels like a really well-planned quest, designed around the characters who are going to be involved in it and set up to give them some really cool surprises, which is kind of the perfect format for matching the strengths of an episodic light novel publication. The trade-off for this is that, like many role-playing campaigns, Overlord suffers from a lot of and-then storytelling. Instead of having plot development evolve naturally out of characters' prior actions, the series often just goes, well, that happened, and then this other thing happened, which doesn't exactly make it the most satisfying. Though to the series' credit, for the most part, once the inciting incident of the story has happened, the plotting usually becomes a lot tighter and organic from there. But I don't think that most Overlord fans are watching it for the plot. And while the plot is certainly good enough to hold a certain demographic's attention, I'm personally quite charmed by the concept of cute monster girls who are, in fact, quite legitimately scary monsters. I don't think that's the main draw. The core appeal of Overlord, for me at least, is the appeal of any good pulp fantasy book, or especially any good RPG. The fun of meeting many interesting, colorful characters and immersing yourself in an unfamiliar, magical land. Of escaping from your mundane life for a little while and going on an adventure full of trials and tribulations. And I think that it's able to sell that more effectively than most other anime games, because it's more focused on entertaining its audience than letting an author into a character live out a power fantasy. Though there is still a bit of that. The protagonist is insanely overpowered. Is it perfect? Brilliant? Not really, but I think that it scratches an itch for fans of high fantasy that other isekai series and most other fantasy anime in recent memory, for that matter, just don't. And it has a lot of fun doing it, too. Though I will say that the light novels, which have plenty of great character moments and little details that were cut from the anime, scratch that itch. And they're a great read overall. Moriyama's descriptive prose adds a lot of texture to the world, and the jaw-dropping, painterly illustrations created by artist So Bin would feel right at home on the cover of a heavy metal album or D&D book. As good as this show is, I'd argue that the light novels offer an even better experience overall. yourself, there has never been a better time to get into them because Bookwalker, Kadokawa's official ebook store, is running a special promotion for them right now. If you buy any volume of either the light novel or the manga before August 6th, you'll be entered to win either a signed Shikishi board, a set of adorable Albedo and Shalltear chibi phone straps, or a gorgeous Albedo wall tapestry. Unfortunately, there's nothing featuring Best Boy Demiurge, but those are still fantastic collectibles for any overlord. And what's more, you can enter the contest cheap and use the promo code BASEMENT when you check out. You can get a 600 yen discount, bringing the cost of a light novel volume and entry in this contest down to just $4, or less than $2 if you decide to pick up the manga instead. Bookwalker has become my favorite way to read light novels and manga on the go, especially on long flights to and from cons, and they have a huge selection of books to choose from. Click the link in the doobly-doo to check them out, or download their app from whichever app store you use, and don't forget to use the promo code BASEMENT for a discount when you buy your first book, whether it's the Overlord or any of their other great titles. But before you go check those out,
Hey, there's a dude on the left for you.
letting me know why you love Overlord, or why you hate it, and I'm totally talking about everything. And if you want to see more videos from me every week, don't forget to hit that subscribe button while you're down there. I'm Jet Fu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
Service, Black Ops. Pick up your game.
I've given Reki Kawahara a lot of shit in the 2 years I've been on this channel, and I'm going to keep doing so because they keep making movies and TV shows based on his terrible books. Although, just as an aside, I am genuinely looking forward to visiting alternative Outsider because Keiichi Seisawa is one of the best writers in the light novel industry, and I think he can actually make something decent out of it. With that said, I see one comment pop up over and over again every time I stumble on SAO, and I'd like to see you make a better thing. This is a common response to criticism of anything. What you're saying isn't valid because you could make something better yourself. And I hope I don't have to run out of bullshit. Criticizing on making. I can't play a single note of most musical instruments, and the only thing I can really sing well is show tunes, but that doesn't make it any less valid when I say that the blend of elevator music and fetish pandering in Nekomimi mode is absolutely insufferable.
15, Saudi Arabia's ultra-conservative leadership changed hands, and in past year, the government has relaxed a lot of its formerly restrictive policies. Women are allowed to drive, women can now have access to government services without needing permission of a male guardian. Saudi Arabia is also allowing movie theaters to open for the first time since the 1980s, finally breaking the 35-year ban with the showing of the Emoji Movie. On second thought here, guys, maybe overturning that movie ban wasn't such a good idea.
That was bogus.
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that takes utopian fictional societies and pits them against the cold, harsh reality of the real world. And that's why I'm excited today to talk about Marvel's Black Panther. As a character, you have to acknowledge how completely awesome this guy is. So awesome, in fact, that it's going to totally make up for the fact that Killmonger is the worst supervillain name, like, ever. At the very least, that we've ever seen in a Marvel film. But today's theory isn't about Black Panther himself. It's actually about the country that he rules over. The mysterious Wakanda. Now, Wakanda is an isolationist African country. Its geography has kept it off limits to most of the world, and despite being chronically bad at sharing, we're going to get to that, it's one of the most technologically advanced countries on Earth in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm here today to tell you that it's not the vibranium that exists within its borders or Black Panther's superpowers that's the most fictional part of this story. Oh no! I'm about to show you how the economy of Wakanda is completely unsustainable. And if you happen to be living there right now, well then, whoo boy, you're gonna want to get out of Dodge before the walls come tumbling around you. And I'm not even talking about Thanos yet. So you ready for me to ruin this one? Strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because we're taking a delightful tour through Marvel's world of macroeconomics. Now, in Black Panther, Wakanda's success is credited to the country having a monopoly on vibranium, a super strong metal that's the strongest on Earth, mostly because it's not even from Earth. It's actually from a meteorite that crashed into the nation's borders.
Team deathmatch. Get kinetic.
Oh, he got a shotgun. Winchester.
Friendly UAV inbound. Counter UAV inbound.
KIA.
Hostile UAV spotted. Hostile counter UAV above. Radar is down.
Prophet down.
Hostile UAV spotted. Be advised, hostile counter UAV is online. Hostile UAV above. Be advised, hostile care package overhead. UAV inbound.
Body drop.
Hostile armored sentry in your AO. Counter UAV inbound.
Care package awaiting orders.
TACCOM, resupply anytime now. Body drop.
Guardian, ready for deployment.
Guard.
Guardian destroyed.
You're letting down the fact.
Neutralized.
Hostile UAV spotted. Be advised, hostile counter UAV is online.
Sniper down. Ruin KIA. Swampy.
Terrible performance, CDP. Come on home.
Scenario antenna. Bugging out.
With these upgrades, you never stood a chance.
was bad. Real bad.
Hello everybody, it's your boy Platinum Equinox, and today we will be discussing the differences, the top 5 differences between the Bleach anime and the live action. So let's get started. Different Shinigami Shihakusho designs. Number 5. For instance, with Ichigo's design, you can see that he is wearing white sleeves on his arms. In the originals, he had no such thing. His Shihakusho is dark bluish with a unique design. But honestly, it seems that the design for all of these Shihakushos, including their own footwear. Ichigo and Renji's footwear look very much the same, whereas Byakuya's footwear is completely white, as if he was wearing a regular pair of socks. Maybe that goes for all the captains in Soul Society via the live action. Number 4, the hair designs. As we all know, Kubo wasn't fully on board with the live action due to the hair. Ichigo's hair color mainly. That was the biggest concern that Kubo had with the movie in the first place. In the live action, of course, the hair is the right color, but it is not spiky at all. If we move along and talk about Rukia, she is a different story altogether. Her hair was altered completely for the live action. At first, many argued about the true disposition of Rukia's hairstyle and already said the movie was going to be bad because of this. This obviously looks nothing close to what
At all.
was. But for live action, this style gets a pass, in my book. I can still personally feel the character of Rukia in this movie through Hana Sugisaki, and as I said, I am personally not going to criticize it, but if you still hate it, then that is your own opinion, and I do have to respect that. Most of the comments I have seen surrounding her hairstyle are completely positive, so we'll just leave it at that. Byakuya and Renji have managed to keep their original looks, but with a few extra little changes here and there, as you can see. For Byakuya, his hair is braided in this version, and I don't really think it was braided in the anime, otherwise we could tell, because look at Tosin, his hair is braided. It is easily known as a big difference, you can see it, and that is a big twist. As for Renji, his hair is indeed red, but it is insanely long this time in the live action. The size is comparable to the last arc we got for the anime, the Execution arc, The Lost Agent. Also, if I might add a little thing that doesn't have anything to do with the hair designs, his tattoos are a little bit different, as you can see, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. As for Chad and Orihime, Chad is fine, I guess. As for Orihime, there is a big change. The hair color is completely different. Why didn't this actor receive the same treatment as Sota Fukushi who is playing Ichigo? Regardless, her beauty makes up for everything else. Let's just hope her personality is the same. If we are speaking honestly here, if you want my honest opinion on it, I'm glad they changed Orihime's hair color. Uryu's hairstyle remains true to the original. Ishin looks great, Urahara looks great, and also Kami and Yuzu look amazing. Number 3, the Grand Fisher encounter. In the beginning of this movie, it's relatively easy to guess how everything will go down, but it is highly likely near the middle of this film, we are probably going to be in absolute confusion with the plot. I was thinking, yikes, this never happened and that never happened. But it's probably going to be enjoyable to say the least. The number of threats in this movie that will pose a danger to the main character are 3 individuals. Sota, and then Renji and Byakuya. And then also you have to count about 3 punk-ass hollows in the film. Fishbone D, the spider-looking rock from The Legend of Zelda. Yeah, I said it. We'll just call him Zoma. Of course, we have Grand Fisher, final boss. The Fishbone D and the spider scenes feel original and true to the story. However, the new events that will take place with Grand Fisher speaks absolute volumes. Grand Fisher's appearance will not only be at Misaki's graveyard, but he will also appear in town as well to fight Ichigo and Uryu. It is also very confusing, but it is seen as one of the biggest differences for this film. Most of the fighting will take place here, in Karakura. Number 2, the Hollows. The Hollows suck out souls instead of devouring flesh. Gotta say, it's very surprising how they decided to approach the Hollows. Devouring a soul reaper, those are human beings with physical bodies, is no longer the case here. The producers have switched gears entirely, and they have decided to take an interesting approach. one which does not involve blood
Supplies
at all.
low.
The
Send
Hollows
care
simply need to grab and suck out the soul, as shown with Rukia in this scene, where she defends Ichigo and his family. Very weird turn of events, but it works. Number 1, encounters. And yes, we did talk about transitions, but throughout watching all of these trailers and promos, everything does look proper as it should be. Ichigo's home, his room, as well as his school and other known places throughout the first arc. But the encounters with all of the characters seem a little different. Actually, they seem far too different. For instance, in one scene, Ichigo encounters Byakuya, Renji, and Rukia having a conversation near one of the entrances of the Senkai. Well, at least, I'm pretty sure it's one of the areas for the Senkai mode. And this is not the only unusual encounter you will see. There are several actually. One with the night setting where Ichigo finds Renji in a public area, or I guess I would say a more private area, and Ichigo almost gets his head cut off by Renji. The next encounter is Uryu and Renji. Renji is being pursued by Uryu in this scene. In another scene, Ichigo and Uryu have an encounter on the rooftop of their school, and Uryu is pointing the bow at Ichigo directly, and it spells a lot of trouble. The next one is where Ichigo is in the park, where he tries to rescue the ghost boy from the spider-looking hollow, and Renji shows up out of nowhere, and for some reason saves Ichigo. Then ultimately attacks Ichigo, either before or after the boy is attacked by the hollow. Whatever comes first. Renji and Byakuya then take turns fighting Ichigo in Karakura Town, the same place where Grand Wizard shows up. It's all very confusing, but again, to have an interesting live-action story based off of something, changing everything around while still keeping core elements is a typical move for live actions. I just want to see this movie already. The hype is eating me alive. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know what you think about all of this in the comments and more. Be sure to follow my social medias located in the description. Subscribe for more on Bleach and other animes, and I will see you all in the next Bleach video.
Care package on standby.
So which is the best Bankai in Bleach? We're going to get down to that this very episode of the Jantanji Show, if you want to call it that. And we're going to go and delve into Bankais which had the most impact, which had the most style, and which was just the best. Of course, this is an objective opinion, so of course tell me your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below, what you guys think of the 10 best Bankais. But let's get on to my list, shall we? Starting off straight off the bat with number 10, going with Kapachi Zaraki. And the reason why this is so high within the list is because we didn't really get to delve in and complete his Bankai and see what it could do, apart from just being one of the most strongest and one of the most powerless in terms of power. Because we have a Bankai here that Kapachi himself not even take 100% of its power, not even close to 100% of his power. And we know how strong Kapachi is. We know how much shit his body can endure, how much pain he can take, and the fact that his body will break after just if this story went the way it needed to go, Kapachi would have been such a humongous threat in just power alone, in just strength. And we only really just got a teaser and a glimpse of just the immense strength this Bankai could produce. Actually, especially changing his body to even withstand it a little bit more, making his body red, giving him horns, making him a little bit more sleeker, yet a little bit more sterner. So because we didn't get the whole full picture, coming in with number 9 is Rukia Kuchiki. She's pretty much the same. She has too much of a backdraft from her Bankai, which is not just really because I like to see characters to improve their Bankai and make it stronger, but because of the situation that again we were in, we never got to see Rukia's full potential with this Bankai. A Bankai that turns Rukia's body to absolute zero, thus making everything around her area freeze along with herself, giving it a very large within that area of effect will get turned to essentially dust. The only problem here is that obviously if you are far away from that area, in that station you are not going to get affected, and the Rukia has to slowly build herself back up to normal temperature is a big weakness in while she's doing that, she can't really move anymore. She's going to very heavily much. Coming in on number 8, we also have
That
an
guy,
Akashi
no
to
man
be
calling
Shiro
him
Hitagaya. Now the reason why he's a little bit more higher than Rukia is the fact that he has matured a little bit more and is more comfortable with his Bankai ability, but also a big fact that he does also have a big drawback when it comes to his ability. Seeing as he still hasn't fully developed his Bankai, allows his body to mature within a form of which he can use a Bankai, allowing him to essentially freeze anything including reaction. But of course the downside to this is that it takes 4 seconds to achieve that ability, but with the overall design, the way that the ice is used as certain shields for certain parts of the body such as the shoulders, and also giving him a little bit more of a just driven home for me for this character design and Bankai. And it's essentially just a downgraded version of Rukia's, but the fact that he's also use it by the time of like enemies can touch him and they would still freeze. It will never
Crush the
around
opposition.
to turn into ice without that effective damaging his body as it's going through. The problem here is that he uses a lot of his energy things that he hasn't fully developed as a character. Going on to a little bit yes, I placed him at number 7 unfortunately, that being Byakuya Kuchiki. I personally just love this Bankai. The fact that you have millions and millions and millions upon millions of little pieces of metal flying around, the fact that you can't see it unless the sunlight touches those blades is essentially the fact of you are essentially fucked. That's why I really think Aizen sent him all the way in Heigo Mundo so he wouldn't have to deal with him within the war. The fact of Byakuya being able to have this massive area of effect as well as close range combat is definitely a big player. It's great for both offensive and defensive. It's great for both in a way of creating an isolated space and also being able to create a ball of blades that constantly shrinking and shrinking until there's nothing left of the opponent. It was just the best. Of course, this is an objective opinion, so of course tell me your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below what you guys think of the 10 best Bankai. But let's get on to my list, shall we? Starting off straight off the bat with number 10, going with Kapachi Zaraki. And the reason why this is so high within the list is because we didn't really get to delve in and complete his Bankai and see what it could do, apart from just being one of the most strongest and one of the most powerfulest in terms of power. Because we have a Bankai here that Kapachi himself's body cannot even take 100% of its power, not even close to 100% of his power. And we know how strong Kapachi is. We know how much shit his body can endure, how much pain he can take, and the fact that his body would break after just a little bit of extra power being put into his Bankai goes to show that if this story went the way it needed to go, Kapachi would have been such a humongous threat in just power alone and just strength. And we only really just got a teaser and a glimpse of just the immense strength this Bankai could produce from Kapachi, especially changing his body to even withstand it a little bit more, making his body red, giving him horns, making him a little bit more sleeker, yet a little bit more sterner. So because we didn't get the whole full picture, that's where Kapachi is sadly at our number 10 spot. Coming in with number 9 is Rukia Kuchiki. She's pretty much the same. She has too much of a backdraft from her Bankai, which is not initially a bad thing because I like to see characters develop to improve their Bankai and make it stronger, but because of the situation again we were in, we never got to see Rukia's full potential with this Bankai. A Bankai that turns Rukia's body to absolute zero, thus making everything around her area freeze along with herself, giving it a very large area of effect, and anyone within that area of effect will get turned to essentially dust. The only problem here is that obviously if you are far away from her area of effect and you are not in that space, you are not going to get affected, and the fact that Rukia has to slowly build herself back up to normal temperature is a big weakness in and of herself, because while she's doing that she can't really move anywhere. She's going to very heavily much affect her body. Coming in at number 8, we also have another ice user being Toshiro Hitagaya. Now the reason why he's a little bit more higher than Rukia is the fact that he has matured a little bit more and is more comfortable with his Bankai ability, but also a big fact that he does also have a big drawback when it comes to his ability. Seeing as he still hasn't fully developed his Bankai, allows his body to mature within a form of which he can use said Bankai, allowing him to essentially freeze anything including reaction. But of course the downside to this is that it takes 4 seconds but the overall design, the way that the ice is used as certain shields for certain parts of the body such as the shoulder.
$50. But Clyde just knew that Daddy was gonna get him one for graduation. Well, he did. Instead, Daddy gave him a brand new bike. Well, Clyde was so mad and disappointed he wouldn't even speak to Daddy. Matter of fact, he up and left for Amarillo the very next day. Things never were the same between he and the old man. And then years later, way after Daddy passed on, Clyde found that old Bible up in his attic. He'd never even taken it out of the box. He started thumbing through it, and right there in the middle was a $50 bill.
You mean he could have had that rifle all along?